Hello and welcome back to Kaylee Daily. Today's question is, what is the difference between a birth doula and a postpartum doula?
This is Kaylee Daily, the bi-weekly podcast about all things doula tips and tits, where we answer one question about pregnancy, labor, postpartum, or lactation in order to have your journey in this parenting world be just a little bit more informed and filled with consent.
Hello and welcome back to Kaylee Daily. My name is Kaylee Harad. I am the host and author and educator and doula behind the Kaylee Daily Doula podcast. And we are starting a brand new series. Guys, my earrings will not stay in my ear. That was what that sound is if you're not watching on YouTube and saw the earring fall. Why the heck, man? Okay. All right, I'm going to not shake my head around so much, and that'll help. We are starting into our second series for this second season that is all about doulas. And my aim in this series is to answer some questions that I've gotten about doulas and kind of work through those in a systematic way so that you can reference them and go back through them as that's helpful to you. So this first question is just purely what's the difference between a birth and postpartum doula, because they are slightly different. And I talk about doulas and just use that word, but I think it's important to distinguish between the two so that I can explain and answer some questions about the two as we go through this series. Now, I also want to take a minute to acknowledge that there are lots of different types of doulas. So there are something called full spectrum doulas, there are abortion doulas, there are even death doulas, and there are fertility doulas. So these are not the only two types, right? But these are the two types that I'm going to be focusing on for this series. So that's why I'm really like honing in on them. So first of all, the educational and emotional and physical support of a doula is present in both forms. It just looks slightly different, of course, right? A birth doula is someone who usually walks through pregnancy with you, has some component of prenatal education or support, and then is with you during delivery or is virtually available to you during delivery, depending on the scenario and what you've hired for, etc. And then usually sees you, sees you or talks to you at some point in the early postpartum time. So the first week or two after you give birth in most cases. So that's not someone that comes and teaches you how to take care of your baby or does a shift with the baby overnight or any of that. That is someone who's really just focusing on the labor and delivery portion of this journey. Okay. Now a postpartum doula is someone who is then coming after that portion and helping with newborn care or education or logistical support. And postpartum care can look so different, doula to doula. So I want to kind of talk about some of the flavors, for lack of a better term, of what postpartum doulas typically do and kind of what we emphasize. Some of us do daytime care. So I'm a doula who does mostly daytime care. I don't do overnights. I sometimes do evenings or early nighttime kind of stuff, but not an 8-hour overnight shift where I stay at your house. That means my work is really heavy on the educational piece and also includes some logistical stuff. So I have families that have me come in to help them learn how to wear their baby or how to bathe their baby or how to set up their nursery or how to make sure that they have diapers in every room and to kind of watch them do stuff and let them know if they could do it more efficiently or if they're doing it safely, etc. So there's a good chunk of education in that, and then there's a good chunk of reassurance in that. The other thing is sometimes it's a matter of literally just having another set of hands, So sometimes I'll go to a shift and my client says to me, I just want to shower and eat and nap by myself. And I'm like, that's reasonable, right? That's a great idea. And so then in that case, I'm hanging out with the baby and maybe changing their diapers and putting on their clothes and helping them go down for a nap or something like that, right? Oftentimes in that scenario, I want my clients to pretend the baby's not even home. I want them to pretend they have no responsibility assigned to the baby at the moment so they can actually have some off time. my reasoning behind that is, as a parent myself, I feel the mental load of parenting almost always, right? There are very few times when you can actually disconnect yourself from that. And so my goal in that is for someone who is just in the thick of taking care of a newborn and in this like early part of learning about newborns even, to be able to really come to that space and say, okay, I know that Kaylee knows what she's doing, right? I know this postpartum doula that I hired, like, is a professional, is trained, knows when to like be concerned about something or not, etc. And so in that, I can really give over my child to them for this short stint of time and go relax and not have to mentally think about things, not have to worry about a diaper or burping or fussy nap time or any of that, because I know that my doula is doing what I've asked them to do. They're taking good care of my baby and I can just mentally relax. So that's a huge piece of it. So oftentimes doula care can go together. So I have plenty of doulas that are birth and postpartum clients of mine. Doula clients, I should say, not doulas. And then some of us as doulas kind of work in one world or the other. So for me, for instance, I work birth and postpartum. I do not do overnight care as a postpartum doula. So when I have clients that really want overnight care as a postpartum doula, I refer them to some dear friends of mine, some colleagues that I have who do that kind of care. And then we either work in conjunction with each other, or they find out that that other person is a better fit for their postpartum care because they can have some continuity between nights and days. Now, overnight postpartum care is primarily helping you get more sleep, right? So there is sometimes an educational component, but the ideal is that, like, if you're feeding the baby, for a person who's lactating, for instance, that you're up for the feeding and then nothing else, right? So you don't have to soothe, you don't have to burp, you don't have to diaper, you don't have to do anything else. You can just sleep in between feedings. If you're bottle feeding a baby, you actually can just sleep the whole time, right? And then the postpartum doula is doing bottles and diapers and burping and everything. So that's really very much about your sleep, and that's the primary focus of that. So this is the first super basic episode about doulas. And so from here, you should expect a couple weeks, I would say, of doula questions. If you have a specific doula question, please send it to me. I'm happy to throw it in. I kind of record a last minute addition to the series. Or if you resonate with these questions and you have follow-up questions, please connect with me. I would love to chat with you about that and get a sense of where you are and kind of what you're dealing with in this journey of pregnancy and birth and postpartum. So today's episode is nice and short, but I'll be back soon for the next episode on this series, all about when to hire and how to hire, etc., etc. So in the meantime, I do wish you consent-filled, well-informed birthing experiences.
These episodes are edited and produced by Kaylee Harrod, as I'm sure you can probably tell. And our amazing music is credited in the show notes as well. So we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, have wonderful and consent-filled birth.